She is so affirmative, that woman. So, anyways, welcome to this acting class. There are a couple things we're going to talk about. We're going to keep it on the shorter side, just to really hone in on some specific points, allow those to be understood, and then move on from those very specific things. I've always thought of acting as this very minimalistic process in that it only has a few steps. It's very simple and it is added on to layer by layer. Each layer is laser specific. Underneath all of those layers, you get something really beautiful that is a work of art, like a painting. There's the sketch underneath the painting, and then you start with certain colors, and then you add other colors on top. It's a very similar process to me in the acting world. Just to give people a little bit of understanding about my experience with acting, why should you come to this acting class? I am a professional actor here in New York City. I do both stage and film. I enjoy and do both, but would say I lean more towards film TV. I think stage acting is really important. It's my home, it's where I started, and I made the transition into film TV in 2018. After that transition, I focused mostly on film and then started doing more theater once I moved to New York because, of course, so much good theater around here. My favorite kind of things to do are independent cinema and very punk, edgy, raw, grounded theater. I really like a thrust stage. I really like theater in the round. Both of those are things I'm really interested in. I really believe in the collaborative work of theater. So my favorite types of productions are productions that have a small team, but a really talented, competent team. And I love people who are focused on growing, learning together. I got my undergraduate in acting. I'm currently in callbacks to be a finalist at the Actors Studio, which is a huge honor and something I've been working towards for the last couple years. The Actors Studio is the most prestigious acting school in the continental US. They are very deeply associated with the group theater, and that group formed in 1931. The Actors Studio 20-ish years later. Both were based in New York. Um, every acting system that we have, whether it be method, which is what the Actors Studio focuses on, or which comes from Stanislavski, Boleslavsky, the Moscow Art Theater. We also have Sanford Meisner, Stella Adler, and then we from those we get like Uta Hagen. All of these came from the group theater. So they're very much a nexus of craft, and everybody has their own take on truthful transformation, on character building, and all these tenements of the craft. So I always like to start my lessons out with a little bit of my background, what I like to do, and the kind of stuff that I talk about. I also really like devised work. I feel very strongly about doing that kind of collaboration, I find it to be the most interesting because anybody can stick themselves in a room and write a script or come up with an idea and execute it in a solo fashion. And I think that's awesome. Like so many multi-hyphenate actor, writer, director stars out there and like more power to them. I also would love to do that. However, the strength of devised theater is found in community, which I don't have singular control over. And I enjoy that. I enjoy that very deeply. So, the thing we're going to talk about today is the specific process of going through callbacks, what that looks like, the tips and tricks I can offer you, and if you have any questions or I'm sure have done the callback process before and can compare and contrast your own experiences, those things are always really awesome and helpful. Don't mind me while I hydrate with my Sprite. So nowadays, whether it be for film, TV, there is there are several platforms that you can go to for auditions. My go-to is Actors Access. There are other great ones. Casting Networks is another big one. Backstage is another big one. NY Direct is another big one. Central Casting is another one. GWCI is another one. I know there are more. Those are the ones that come to my mind right away. IMBD Pro has jobs on there, Facebook groups, Indie Empire, all sorts of places you can find casting calls. So you find a casting call and you check out the kind of projects you want to do. It's really important to be specific with yourself about what you want to do and what you don't want to do. I know for me that I do commercial work, but usually by referral only. And I love to also do voiceover, but it depends. Um, I'm not an incredibly gifted voiceover artist, so there's only a few things that I feel like I can really nail. So I don't audition for every voiceover role and I don't submit for every commercial gig. But when I first moved to the city, I did. Oh yeah. Like hundreds, like hundreds of auditions. And that was a really, really good thing for me to do was cast the literally widest net possible. My cat is going crazy, you guys. Cast the widest net possible in order to get something in a short amount of time because it's just a numbers game when it comes to booking. If you just submit a bunch, you're very likely to get called back into something. Whereas if you don't submit ever, you know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So in the process, you submit for a project that you actually want to do and that you also would fit for. My most classic thing that I do is non-binary lover. Like they pull me in for these, whether it's a rom-com or a drama or like a queer, it's always queer. I do a lot of queer work. So no matter what it is, it's very like non-binary boyfriend, non-binary lover. And those are really fun roles. Whenever I get sides, I always think about them as a starting place. Like, okay, these sides are where we begin. Meaning, I have them right here. I'm actually, the reason I'm leading a class on this is because I have a callback tomorrow that I'm going in for. So it's a one pager and it's very basic. It's very much me running out of the office to ask a girl out. I'm like the receptionist at her um, company, and I like stumble out into the rain, and I'm like, "You want to get a drink?" And she's like, "No." She doesn't like me as much as I like her. So she very politely declines, and I very politely am like, give her a compliment, and that's it. That's the scene. So very basic. It's for a day player role. It's not a super huge part, but it pays the bills. So excited to do it. And luckily, this is, from what I can tell, because I don't have a full script or anything, it's contemporary realism set in the present. Basically, I'm playing a character that isn't very far from who I am. Sometimes you get sides and you're like, oh, this is sci-fi. I'm playing a ghost. There is masking or some kind of plot reveal afoot. I have to carry the arc of like there's sometimes you read something and you're like, "Oh, I have to like understand this. Like I have to take time to like digest this and see what it's really about." Luckily, this is not one of those scripts. This is a very basic, she's beautiful, but she doesn't know it, and this goofball wants to ask her out. So running, 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 do the scene. Don't overthink it. I used to be a chronic overthinker. The difference for me was in school, I had to like show my work, and I didn't know how to not show my work. Like I had learned how to act in a way where if I didn't show my work, then it didn't transform me. So I would have these scripts. I mean, this is literally just has the lines highlighted. So that I can read them. That's it. I didn't memorize. I just luckily, like I said, this is a scene that is pretty basic, so the concept of it is really easy to understand. And I have what are called tracking thoughts. And tracking thoughts are my thought process for the character that inspires the next moment that happens. So my tracking thought for a script like this is I also in the sides it says I hand her a newspaper. I know props are a controversial subject in self-tapes. I love a prop. So this is my because in the sides it says that I hand her a newspaper to cover her from the rain. You know, like one of these like where you're walking and you have covering you. So this is like I picked this up. It was free on the street. It's like a Chinese newspaper, whatever. Um, so I decided, remember how I said the script is a starting point. So it literally just says Tal, who's my character, like runs out to the street, um, gives Claire a newspaper. I ask her if she wants to get a drink. She declines. I ask her if she's like still living up where she lives, and she's like, yeah. I ask her about a thing that she's writing and then give her a compliment. So those are my tracking thoughts, right? Like when I'm going through the script, I mean, it's very normal, everyday small talk conversation. So very natural and sort of the progression of it. It's clear that we don't know each other as well as maybe I'd like to, because there's one stage direction that says Clara smiles at Tao, who likes her better than she likes them. So that cues several things. One, it cues that the writer thinks Tal is non-binary, or at least uses they them pronouns. So big pro for me. It also, you can then deduce that like Tal spends a lot of time thinking about Claire, but Claire does not spend a lot of time thinking about Tal. So that's their relationship. And this is all you get, right? So like you oftentimes have to make choices based on very minute information, and it can be really easy to like miss things or not understand exactly like the vibe, but I'm sorry, my hair is like going crazy. Um, but I think it helps when you make hyper specific decisions and you make as many as you can that are supported by the text. But always adding your own flair to them is like what really I think books you the job. So like I said, the script is a starting place. So I got this newspaper and I was like, okay, well, she's already outside. So she's already like left the building. So like in my head, I thought, wouldn't it be cute if my character had been like waiting till the end of the day to ask her out and then goes to the bathroom like as she's leaving, gets out of the bathroom and is like, wait, where'd Claire go? And everybody's like, oh, Claire just left. So I think, shit, I have to run after her. So I grab the first newspaper I see, which is this Chinese newspaper, and then run after her. In my head, she's like halfway through the parking lot, and I'm stumbling. I pictured the building that they used to film the exteriors of The Office in, just because that's like, I mean, I watched The Office like 1,000 times. And I very much thought of Tal as like this Jim Halpert kind of guy. And so I did the self-tape where I fall into the frame. I like stumble through the doorway type deal. Of course, I filmed it right here. So I did this thing where I like stumble into the scene. I look this way, and then I look and I see Claire like walking through the parking lot, and I have my newspaper, and obviously my laptop is on a table. So I enter, I do my stumble, I look, and then going to hand Claire the newspaper. Obviously, my phone is like higher up than this. My eye lines and my framing are different, but I'm on my laptop as opposed to on my phone. So then I try to hand Claire the newspaper, but then I trip again and I fall down out of frame and then I pop back up. The first lines are Claire, here, but I added two trips in between that, a first trip before I say Claire and then a second trip after I say Claire. And I did that for a couple reasons. One, this is like uh this is actually a psychological thriller, and you would not know that except from the breakdown, which is how I know that. But it being a psychological thriller, I thought it would be funny to approach this like a rom-com. And also, this is like a day player. This is somebody who's like kind of important, but like isn't going to have a huge role in the thing. So normally you want to be really mindful of tone and genre in your auditions. But if I took this scene in a different direction, if like I made the choice that Tal is secretly a um, Machiavellian guy who has this like agenda with Claire, and wanted her to see them or whatever, like I would be different in my execution of it. I would be a little more I would be a little more collected. Um, Instead of tripping, I might walk in and kind of look around and be like, Claire, hey, try this. Something like that. Now, that being said, I don't think that's right or wrong. I just made the decision to play against the genre because A, I got that vibe from the sides. Like it didn't seem suspicious or looming or anything. Like Tal doesn't seem like he's a part of the psychologicalness of it. They actually kind of seem like a glimmer of hope in the psychological thriller. Like maybe Claire realizes later that like Tal is a great option for her or a really good guy or something. And in this moment, she's like not into him, but we like see how into her he or they are, and that is so exciting in movies. So that was my choice to approach it like that. And like I said, adding some physical comedy and just the newspaper was so grounding for me. If I didn't have the newspaper, I think it would have been fine, but I think pantomiming is totally okay in film. Um, it's better to pantomime than not do an action, in my opinion, depending on the prop. If it's something like handing off a newspaper, um, the only thing that gets really tricky is a phone. Like, I don't really like when people do the hand phone because that's not, unless you're like making a joke about being on the phone, like your character is pretending to pick up a phone, I feel like this is okay. But if your character is actually answering the phone, doing something like this can be like doing like you would actually be holding a phone is a little more realistic to me. I would just do something like that. I'd be like, "Hello." Okay. But I also have, and I think this is a really great option for a lot of people. I have this. I think it's an iPhone 4. Look at that giant. Yeah. Look at that camera. This is my iPhone 16 next to an iPhone 4. I don't even have like, I just have a regular 16. It's crazy. Anyways, like, great. Whatever. This is like the greatest prop ever because it isn't distracting. And then I can be on the phone and it's very like, oh, it's normal. Oh, I want to text. Stuff like that is easy. If if my character is like a teenage girl or I'm like playing with it, it's not whatever. So I think having a prop phone is one of the only props that I really like recommend that actors get because we're oftentimes taping on our phones so much that like even just having it as like a grounding point in a scene can be great. Like I play a lot of college girls and teenage girls who are like, and there's just something so much different about holding a real phone rather than being like just grounding. So, um, that's what I recommend. Anyways, so all of these things are really important to helping you stand out and book the callback. It's always really great to think about what kind of actor you are. I know that I love physical comedy. I know that I love goofiness. I know that I like love. So it's easier to transform into somebody who's like a little sweetie, little soft sweetheart type vibe. But it's harder for me to connect to hyper pop girly stuff. And if I do, it's often very like I don't know how to describe it. Like I can't play hyper pop or like girly without it being incredibly sensual. Like if I'm doing that, it's automatically sexy. Like I can't do it in like an intelligent way or I can't do it in a way that doesn't look very like I'm not very grounded in it. So I can do it, but it's very much like would be more for maybe some like high octane action drama film rather than like Girl Next Door. And it's important to understand these things because this is going to be how you get more callbacks because you need to audition for the things that you're more likely to get called back in for. And knowing these things like type and tone and genre and pacing are all really important. So so I did this audition on Actors Access. I will go in for an in-person callback, and I'm going to talk about the two types of callbacks I've done for the last 15 minutes. The first type of callback I've done are virtual callbacks, and those are important for many reasons, very different from in-person callbacks. I've done I've done big Hollywood stuff. I've done both. I've done in-person and virtual for both big Hollywood stuff, and I've done in-person virtual for small indie. And they're very similar. For big Hollywood stuff, you either have a virtual callback where you need to use your laptop generally because it's such a high pressure situation. You really want to make sure that your quality of camera and control of your like portal to the web like is as in your control as possible. You also want to use something you're most comfortable with. If you've like never used a laptop before and you're like, I only have an iPad or I only have my phone, then by all means, do what you need to do. But for me, I've always been audition on my phone, call back on a laptop. The only time that gets tricky is when I am traveling or need to have a very specific eye line. This is obviously decent for scenes where you're sitting the whole time, but scenes where you're sitting the whole time, hopefully they also have some kind of movement or aliveness or breadth of character. Um, Otherwise, I'll put my camera up on, or I'll put my laptop up on a music stand and raise it all the way. And then if I'm like, nope, it's just not working, then I will do the callback on my phone. But it's just important that you have a ring light that allows you to move between portrait and landscape, and that all of the formatting on, if you're using Zoom or whatever software you're doing the callback on, that it's like all within your control and that you've done it before. If you have to do a scene that you want to be standing for that you like have to do on your laptop or something, that is like crazy, but like you will do what you need to do. Like one time I just like did this weird squat because this is obviously me standing. So I just like did this weird squat and like pretended to be standing and like do stuff. And it like I was engaged. Like my body was engaged, and if I like did stuff, I like tried to make it look like I wasn't in this weird squat, but like gotta make it work for you. Anyways, and that's the same for indie stuff. If it's a callback and you are, it's important to know sitting, standing. Also, it's really important for film. So for theater, every time I've gone into a callback, it's always like, oh, great, like you did this the first time. What else you got is kind of the vibe of a lot of theater callbacks that I've gone to. Whereas film callbacks, it's like do the exact same thing. Change nothing. Exact same costume. If you can do exact same backdrop, do it. If you can have the same scene partner, do it. If you drank a cup of coffee before, peed, and then did the audition, do that. Everything the same. Everything the same. And then if they say, that was awesome, can you do something different? Then you can be like, yes. Or you can be like, actually, this is what I've prepared. If you have an idea of a different direction you'd like me to take it, and I can. I think that's a really important question in callbacks is remembering that they're vetting you, but you're also vetting them, making sure this is the kind of director you want to work with, This is the kind of production that's going to see the project through, and that it's not going to be a waste of your time. So, in a callback, I usually practice what I did the first time, approaching it the same way. And then I'll think to myself, okay, well, if I played Tao like a goofy boy in love, let me give you another option in the complete opposite direction, where Tal is actually the Machiavellian villain of this whole psychological thriller and is the one behind Claire's confusion and wants nothing more than to, I don't know, have Claire all for themselves. So then, I would approach things very differently. I might be like really nice, but in a very focused way where I wouldn't be as big in my movements. I'd be very subtle. I might lean back a little more. Whereas, like before, I was like, I'm talking to this girl that I really like. So I'm like leaning forward. I'm like, yeah, how's the thing you're writing? Right. Whereas if I have a lot more confidence, a lot more Machiavellianism, my posture is going to change. I'm going to be looking at her. I might have my head cocked a little bit. That might even be too disrespectful. I might be looking at her straight on, nodding, making her feel really good about herself. Like, yeah, were you writing something? Like sort of baiting her into like telling more about herself. Very different than goofy non-binary kid who's like, hey, that style. Um, so in person is different, obviously, because first of all, you're in the room, there are other actors there. When I did a screen test for a guest star on 911 Lone Star in LA. And when I got out there, I like flew out there, went to the Fox lot. It was so cool. I met the casting directors. I waited in the room. You can definitely hear the person ahead of you going, which is like always alarming because you're like, it's not what I want, but here we are. So I got there, I think like 45 minutes early. Or no, I got there at least an hour early because I had to walk through the Fox lot, which think about it like a college campus, huge, lots of buildings you don't know the name of, very distracting, a little confusing. You're going to get lost. Also, by the time you get there, you're going to need to pee, and you probably are really sweaty, which I was, all of those things. Lost, sweaty, needed to pee. Hadn't picked my outfit yet. I had like three options with me, hence why I was sweaty. I was like carrying clothes. Um, so I got to the audition room, spent like 20 minutes in the bathroom, like just literally washing my body in the sink because I was like, I am not going to go in there and just smell bad. God forbid. So went in, washed myself, like ran the scene a couple times, texted my manager that I was where I needed to be. She was like, "Do you have any questions?" I was like, "No, I feel really good." So I had the scene and felt good about it, had it memorized, went in and they had me up against a blue wall and I gave a little bit of information about myself. I It was like not at all relevant to the show. I was like, I'm just really happy to be here. Told them that it was my first time on the Fox lot and how exciting it was to be here and all that jazz. So we do the scene. The casting directors explained to me what was going on. There was four of them in the room. There were two casting directors, an associate, and a reader. So me and the reader do the scene and they tape you on a little tripod and video camera. And I went in and did it exactly the way that I did it. Or no, because it was, I don't even think I auditioned. I think I just Yeah, they literally just called me in for a screen test. So they hadn't even seen me before. I don't know who recommended me, but they hadn't even seen me do that scene before. So I just did it. Yeah, I just did it. And they were like, that was great. Can you try it this way? And I said, absolutely. And I did it. I often think when people give you notes, it's really just to see how adjustable you are. I never think it's because I did something wrong. I literally am just like, I'm going to create for you what I believe to be my strongest product. And then if you want to see how malleable I am or what kind of actor I am, then absolutely give me a note. So they gave me a note. They're like, take it in this direction. I was like, yeah. So I did it again. And they were like, wow. And I was like, thank you. They were really sweet. So I felt so empowered. And then we talked a little bit about family history and some things that I found interesting about my family, which turned out I had something in common with the casting directors of, and they left. We all left that appointment, and I didn't get it, but I got great feedback from that office, and they told my agent and manager that I could play a daughter of Pam Adlon. So I was like, come on, better things. Actually, Mikey Madison plays one of the daughters on that show, so early Mikey. And we so anyways, that was super fun. Um, for this in I obviously don't know what the callback is going to be like tomorrow, but I do know that I'm going to wear my blue. I had a light blue button down on because it just says receptionist, so I have no idea what kind of receptionist. So I went very basic, very general, collared shirt. In I mean, don't tell them this, but in my audition I wore black sweatpants, but I will wear real pants to the audition. Just dress pants, something that I look good in, something that I feel sexy and hot in. And more just I said sexy and hot, but like professional. This is a job where you want to strike the right chord in the vein of the character, but also feel really good about yourself. So, both of those things are really important. And yeah, then I'll hopefully hear back from them. They film pretty soon. They film in like 2 weeks. So I would assume they would get back to me early next week, um, in a week from now at the latest. So that's pretty much the process of auditioning, the specifics that get you there all the way up until the callback. The best thing you can do, I think, is have fun. Remember that you're always auditioning for your career, not the job. So, always make sure that if you have a little ritual, that you do your little ritual. Um, if you, yeah, prepare in the way that sets you up for success. I'm going to take this moment to see if there are any questions about anything. A couple minutes for that if needed. Cool. All right. Well, I think we will stop here. But as always, thank you for joining, being a part of this. Thank you for being a part of Indie Empire. And if you have any questions about the world of callbacks or acting in general or things that come up for you, please always feel free to reach out and shoot me a DM. You can also post on the timeline or in the Self Tape Club group, which is a group that I run where we talk about auditions and self taping and whatnot. So, yeah, Thank you so much for being here and have a great rest of your Thursday. Bye, you guys.